Shocking twist in the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa arrested after trying to frame Jacob Fatu for a brutal car crash? You won't believe what went down backstage. In this jaw-dropping WWE drama, tensions within the Bloodline explode as Solo Sikoa crosses the line. After weeks of mounting suspicion and secret moves, Solo is caught attempting to set up his own family member, Jacob Fatu, for a serious accident. But who exposed the truth? What does this mean for Roman Reigns' faction? And could this be the final fracture in the family? Find out how it all unfolded and what this means for the future of WWE's most dangerous faction. What if the very man who claimed to lead a family into war was the one who staged the first attack? What if the chaos that shook WWE SmackDown to its core was not an accident, but a carefully orchestrated betrayal? A trap, designed to destroy a bloodline brother from the inside out. This is not just about a championship. Not anymore. This is about a lie so dangerous, it nearly destroyed careers, reputations, and a man's freedom. And at the heart of it all, stood the United States champion, Solo Sikoa. On a night that began with shattered glass, twisted metal, and blood on the pavement, WWE SmackDown was plunged into turmoil before it even went on air. The camera didn't roll on a promo. It didn't open with a match. It opened with sirens outside the arena. Paramedics swarmed. The screech of rubber on asphalt still echoed. A black SUV had been sideswiped and rammed into a parking structure just moments before broadcast. The entire vehicle was mangled. Its driver, Tonga Loa, was seen bleeding from the forehead, dazed, trying to stand as officials rushed toward him. The scene was pure mayhem. Solo Sikoa was already there, phone in hand, pacing in circles, shouting for help. Zilla Fatu was held back by security as a crowd formed. Adam Pearce arrived on the scene just as the medics began tending to Loa. Fans around the world would only learn what happened seconds before the show hit air. The entire Bloodline had just been ambushed, and then came the accusation, out of nowhere. Solo Sikoa, the man crowned by Roman Reigns as the enforcer of a generation, turned on his heel, pointed his finger directly at Jacob Fatu, and said 6 words that would crack the foundation of WWE's most dominant faction. He did this. Jacob set us up. No hesitation. No evidence. No warning. In the seconds that followed, WWE cameras captured the moment Adam Pearce's face turned from concern to disbelief. The arena was in chaos. Jacob Fatu was not even in the building yet. He was scheduled for a segment later in the night. And yet Solo made his intentions clear. The car crash, the blood, the ambush, it was all Jacob's doing. But here's the thing, Jacob Fatu never arrived at the arena until after the first match of the night. Surveillance footage from WWE's security office would later show that Fatu's car only pulled into the parking lot 27 minutes into the show. So how could he have orchestrated an accident that took place before he was even there? That's when the doubts began. Tonga Loa was loaded into an ambulance. Zilla Fatu refused to comment. Solo remained adamant, Jacob did it. And yet the show continued, as it always does. But beneath the surface, something darker was unraveling. Backstage officials were reviewing security footage. Adam Pearce was consulting with local law enforcement, who had already begun questioning bystanders and checking arena traffic logs. In between segments, talent whispered in the hallways. Something wasn't right. Something smelled off. Solo Sikoa wasn't just acting like a man on edge, he was acting like a man covering something up. By the midpoint of the show, cracks began to show in his story. WWE's internal security team reported that the car Solo claimed belonged to Jacob Fatu had no matching registration. In fact, the vehicle involved in the crash was a rental, registered under a corporate account connected to WWE's own transportation vendor. A car that was never in Jacob Fatu's possession. And then came the first true unraveling. A witness. A staff member, a production crew tech, came forward to Adam Pearce with a quiet admission. He had seen Solo Sikoa near the loading dock. 30 minutes before the crash, arguing on the phone, pacing back and forth, near the exact car that would later be involved in the incident. He didn't think much of it at the time. Until he saw the wreckage on the news feed. Pearce pressed harder. Within the hour, WWE Legal had reviewed the footage themselves. Solo had been alone with the vehicle. And when they checked with the vendor, the rental record showed a name attached to the cars delivered. It wasn't Jacob, it was Solo Fatu. Solo's legal name. That's when everything changed. The camera backstage cut to black. Commercial break, and when WWE returned live to the audience, no matches were announced. No promos. No sound, only one shot. Solo Sikoa, surrounded by arena security and two uniformed officers, being escorted through the gorilla position as fans screamed in confusion. Jacob Fatu tried to block them. Adam Pearce intervened, and for the first time since the modern Bloodline civil war began, the man who swore he would carry Roman Reigns' legacy forward, was now in handcuffs. Solo Sikoa was under arrest. The headlines hit before the credits rolled. Breaking: WWE superstar Solo Sikoa arrested live during SmackDown broadcast. United States champion booked after allegedly faking car accident. And most damning of all, sources confirm Solo Sikoa attempted to frame Jacob Fatu in staged hit-and-run. It was an unprecedented moment, not just for WWE, but for the Bloodline as a whole. For weeks, tensions had been rising. Jacob Fatu, long considered the outsider, had refused to bow to Solo's leadership. His alliance with Jacob Fatu created a splinter faction, a dangerous rebellion that Solo viewed as a direct threat to his reign, but no one, not even Paul Heyman, could have predicted it would go this far, because what Solo Sikoa did wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated sabotage backstage. The fallout was immediate. Jacob Fatu stormed out of the building, reportedly smashing a monitor on his way. Tonga Loa, recovering in hospital, refused to comment. And Adam Pearce, visibly shaken, addressed the locker room with one phrase no one had expected to hear that night: "This is no longer a storyline. This is a criminal matter." According to police records released within hours, Solo Sikoa is facing charges of reckless endangerment, false reporting, and attempted obstruction of justice, and while WWE Legal is scrambling to manage the situation, one thing is now certain. The Bloodline is at war with itself. For Jacob Fatu, the truth was vindication. For weeks, he had been vilified as the dangerous wildcard. The monster who didn't play by the rules. But now, with the cameras revealing the truth, with Solo Sikoa exposed as the architect of the entire charade, the WWE Universe was forced to reconsider everything. Jacob didn't strike first, Solo did. In the name of power. In the name of control. In the name of a legacy he believed belonged only to him. But what drives a man to betray his own blood? To stage a crash, injure a fellow wrestler, and risk everything, just to make another look guilty? The answer lies in what Solo feared most: irrelevance, because ever since Roman Reigns stepped away, the Bloodline has been fractured. With no clear tribal chief to follow, each man has begun writing his own destiny. And for Solo, that path was built on dominance. Claiming the United States Championship, crushing dissent, and silencing anyone who questioned his leadership. But Jacob Fatu? He was different. He didn't just challenge Solo's rule. He embodied everything Solo feared: chaos, strength, independence, and the echo of Roman Reigns' true power. Solo did what he always does: he struck first, and this time, he struck too far. Now, as the dust settles and the headlines swirl, the question remains: what happens when the enforcer becomes the hunted, when the wolf who leads the pack is caught with blood on his hands? Solo Sikoa is behind bars. His future as champion is uncertain. His reputation? Shattered. The man who claimed to be Roman Reigns' rightful heir is now the face of the WWE's darkest betrayal. But the war is not over, because Jacob Fatu isn't just walking free. He's walking angry, and what he does next might change the course of SmackDown forever. As dawn broke over the WWE Performance Center the next morning, the world was already ablaze with headlines. Social media was in chaos. Fans, superstars, analysts, they were all trying to process the impossible. Solo Sikoa, the man who once promised to carry on Roman Reigns' legacy, had just been arrested live on SmackDown for orchestrating a car crash and attempting to frame his own cousin, Jacob Fatu. But this wasn't just news. This was a fracture. A revelation that shattered what remained of the Bloodline's unity, and at the center of it all, Jacob Fatu finally had the world's attention. Just 12 hours after the incident, Jacob broke his silence, not with a press release, not through WWE, but with a raw, unfiltered Instagram live that was as emotional as it was unflinching. His eyes were bloodshot. The scars across his knuckles still fresh. He didn't smile. He didn't yell. He just looked into the camera and spoke. "I didn't say anything last night because I needed to breathe," Jacob began. "I needed to look my daughter in the eye this morning and remind myself I'm still a man. Because what Solo did, that wasn't wrestling. That wasn't a storyline. That was an attempt to end my life. And for what? A title? A spotlight? Or because he knows damn well he ain't ready to face me one-on-one?" He paused. The comments section flooded with hearts and stunned reactions. "That car was meant for me. Tonga got caught in the crossfire. That blood on the concrete? That should have been mine. Solo didn't just try to set me up. He tried to destroy me. And now that the whole world knows, I ain't hiding no more." And with that, he issued a challenge that would send shockwaves across the company. SummerSlam. Steel cage. Me and you, Solo. No running. No lies. Just blood and justice. Within minutes, #Jacob Fatu vs Solo trended #1 worldwide. WWE had no choice. The machine was already in motion. At noon, Adam Pearce stepped in front of a WWE-branded press wall and made it official: Solo Sikoa has been suspended indefinitely pending further investigation. He will remain stripped of any official responsibilities until legal proceedings are complete. However, per Jacob Fatu's request, and because Solo has not yet been formally charged, he will be granted one final match at SummerSlam, inside a steel cage. The stakes? Career and legacy. If Solo wins, the charges will not be acknowledged on television again. WWE will treat the incident as a personal matter and not affect his on-screen future. But if Jacob Fatu wins, Solo Sikoa will be removed from WWE programming indefinitely. It's not just a match anymore. It's an ultimatum. Backstage, those close to Solo have gone silent. His legal team refuses to issue public statements. But sources inside WWE reveal that the locker room is deeply split. Some say Solo's desperation is a result of unbearable pressure. That after Roman Reigns' absence, the company tried to force him into a leadership role he was never meant to fill. Others aren't as forgiving. "There's a difference between kayfabe and criminal," one veteran superstar reportedly told a producer. And Solo blurred that line so far it snapped back and hit him in the face. Paul Heyman, the man who once stood beside both Roman and Solo, has yet to say a word. He didn't tweet. He didn't comment, but he was seen backstage after SmackDown, shaking his head, refusing interviews, and muttering only one word under his breath as he passed Jacob Fatu in the hallway. Finally. Because for Heyman, the ultimate chess player, this might have been the move he always knew would happen. He once called Jacob Fatu the most dangerous man in professional wrestling. He once said Solo Sikoa reminded him of a young Taz, but he never said they could coexist. Now the fallout has arrived. And the Bloodline, once an unshakable empire, is fracturing under the weight of its own darkness. Jacob Fatu is no longer the outcast. He is the avenger. Solo Sikoa is no longer the enforcer. He is the fugitive. And as SummerSlam approaches, one thing becomes clear: this is not a wrestling match, this is a reckoning. The steel cage will not be built for spectacle, it will be built for truth, because inside those walls, there will be no scripts. No booking. No escape. Only two men. One with everything to prove, the other with everything to lose, and when the final bell rings, the WWE Universe will know which member of the Bloodline was the true heir to Roman Reigns' war, and which was just a pretender. And if you listen closely, beneath the roar of the fans, beyond the drama of the match card, you'll hear it. A legacy crumbling. A crown falling. And the ghosts of loyalty, trust, and blood, whispering one final question: what happens when the wolf turns on his own pack? We're about to find out. Because come SummerSlam, justice isn't just coming for Solo Sikoa. It's waiting inside that steel cage, and Jacob Fatu holds the key. 3 days before SummerSlam, a WWE camera crew was quietly escorted into an undisclosed facility in Orlando, not for an interview, not for a segment, but for what would become the most uncomfortable sit-down in WWE documentary history. Solo Sikoa, still suspended and facing formal charges, had requested one thing from WWE management, a final message. No edits. No cuts. Just him. The camera. And the truth, what followed was a 7-minute monologue that would send chills across the wrestling world. Solo sat alone in a dimly lit room, wearing a plain black hoodie and no championship gold. His eyes were heavy. His voice hoarse. But there was no denial. No deflection. No attempt to spin the narrative. Only this: "I did it," he said. "I set it up. I staged the whole thing. Because I was sick of being treated like the second son." He looked directly into the lens. "All my life, I've been told I'm next. The next enforcer. The next heir. The next in line to carry the family. But no matter what I do, someone else walks in and they crown him instead. Jacob didn't earn this war. He walked in with his name and got handed loyalty I had to bleed for." His hands clenched. He leaned forward. "Roman gave me the keys. I ran this whole thing when he left. I broke Jay. I buried Sammy. I held it down when nobody else would. And for what? For Paul Heyman to whisper about Jacob being the future? For Adam Pearce to push me aside like I'm some liability? Nah." He paused. That car was meant to scare him. To shake him. Not hurt Loa. That wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't know he'd switch cars last minute. But it's done. And now the whole world wants to make me the villain." Then, silence. Until his final words: "But Jacob, if you're watching this, just know. When that cage door shuts at SummerSlam, I'm not stepping in there to wrestle you. I'm stepping in there to punish you. For stealing what was mine. For pretending like you ever bled for this. One of us ain't walking out the same. And I'm okay with that." The video aired once, just before Raw, and was immediately pulled from WWE's YouTube channel. No comments. No reposts. Just a ripple of stunned reactions, and a lingering sense of dread because now, SummerSlam wasn't just a fight, it was a funeral. Backstage, the tension thickened. Zilla Fatu, once loyal to Solo, had refused to appear on either show following the arrest. But reports from WWE insiders confirmed he'd been in constant contact with Jacob, and was preparing to stand ringside at SummerSlam in full support of his cousin. Meanwhile, Paul Heyman, silent for weeks, finally broke character at a closed-door production meeting. What he said left even veteran producers speechless. "You asked me once," Heyman reportedly told Triple H, "who I thought could lead the next generation. I gave you one answer. I was wrong." He then turned to Bruce Pritchard and muttered, "It was never Solo." When pressed by reporters, Heyman would only offer one sentence to the press pool outside WWE headquarters: "I no longer have a tribal chief." The message was clear: the war between Solo and Jacob wasn't just a personal grudge, it was the spiritual collapse of the Bloodline legacy. And as SummerSlam approached, WWE began constructing the steel cage, the largest custom structure they've used since Hell in a Cell 2019, not in the usual arena prep window, but days in advance, because they knew. This wasn't a match that could be built overnight. This was a battlefield. A ring of retribution. And on the night before SummerSlam, Adam Pearce made it official with a chilling public statement: no disqualifications. No escapes. No interference. If anyone enters that cage who is not sanctioned by WWE security, they will be immediately suspended without pay. But backstage, another whisper began to rise. A rumor that one man, one name, hadn't responded to any of this. Not Heyman, not Jacob, not Zilla, but Roman. Where was he? No one had seen him. No tweets. No posts. No sightings, and for the first time, some began to ask, would the tribal chief return? Would Roman Reigns walk into the storm his empire had birthed? Or was this his final message? Silence. On the day of SummerSlam, WWE released a single teaser graphic with no caption, just a shadowed steel cage, and one phrase, faded into the smoke behind the logo: one will rise. One will fall. And blood will spill. The match is now official: Jacob Fatu vs Solo Sikoa steel cage. No escape and only one man walks out with his future intact. The final battle is here. The question isn't who survives, it's who gets to live with what they've done. The lights went black. The crowd fell silent, and then, as the cage began to lower, an uneasy pulse echoed through the arena, a slow, thunderous beat, like a war drum sounding through the soul of WWE. This wasn't a title match. This wasn't even about justice anymore. This was a blood feud, locked in steel. Jacob Fatu walked to the ring first, alone, hood up, eyes sharp as razors. No entrance music. Just the pounding of the crowd, rising like a tidal wave. He didn't raise his hands. He didn't pose for the camera. He walked with the stillness of a man who had already buried something inside him. Behind him, at a distance, stood Solo Fatu, arms crossed, not scheduled to participate, but visibly present as a witness. A brother in pain. A brother in war. Then came Solo Sikoa, still in his hoodie. Still no music. Still no gold.no championship. No pyro. No Paul Heyman, just Solo, expression blank, fists taped, face bruised by the very truth he tried to bury. The steel cage shut behind them with a loud metallic echo. No commentary. No hype packages. No crowd chants. Just cold tension in the air, and then, the bell. What happened next was not a wrestling match. It was carnage. Jacob exploded first, fists flying like sledgehammers, sending Solo into the corner. The cage rattled violently as he rammed him face first into the steel. Again. And again. And again. Solo bled first. A gash above his right eye. A reminder of what he tried to fake, but Solo answered with brutality of his own. A Samoan drop onto the exposed steel floor. A low blow behind the ref's back. A steel chair wedged between the turnbuckles, driving Jacob's spine into the metal like he was trying to snap him in half. They didn't fight like cousins, they fought like two men who wanted to erase each other from memory. Jacob screamed in agony. Solo roared like a wounded animal. There were no cheers. No chants, just the sound of two Bloodline warriors destroying everything Roman Reigns ever tried to build. Midway through the match, Solo climbed the cage wall, not to escape, but to leap. He launched off with a splash, only for Jacob to roll, and Solo slammed ribs first into the mat. He held in pain, clutching his side. That's when Solo Fatu moved. He stepped toward the cage, hands on the steel, heart pounding, but he didn't enter. He didn't interfere. He just stared, and whispered one word Jacob could read through the mesh: end it. Jacob rose, slow and furious. He pulled Solo up by the hair, looked him dead in the eye, and for a moment, he hesitated, because even now, broken and bruised, Solo still looked like his cousin. Still looked like blood, but Jacob Fatu shook that doubt off, lifted Solo into the air, and drove him down with the final sentence, a brutal, double underhook piledriver onto a steel chair in the center of the ring. It was over. The bell rang. The cage door creaked open, but Jacob didn't move. He didn't celebrate. He didn't pose. He sat there, in the blood, in the silence, beside the man who tried to ruin him, breathing, shaking, sweating, surviving. WWE officials entered the cage. Adam Pearce walked out, flanked by medical staff. Solo Sikoa was barely conscious. EMTs began treating him immediately. Solo Fatu finally stepped inside, pulled Jacob to his feet, and whispered something in his ear, and then, the arena lights dimmed again. The crowd rose in a wave of disbelief. A single spotlight hit the ramp, and slowly, silently, Roman Reigns walked out. No music. No entrance video, just the tribal chief, dressed in all black, face stone cold, eyes locked on the ring. He didn't walk fast, he didn't walk with purpose. He walked like a man watching a funeral. Jacob froze. Zilla turned. Solo, barely conscious, lifted his head just enough to see the silhouette of the man he once called tribal chief standing under the spotlight. Roman stood at the ramp, expression unreadable. He said nothing, but his presence alone was enough to paralyze the air. After nearly 100 days of silence, Roman Reigns had returned, and as he stared into the ring, at Jacob, at Solo, at the blood-soaked steel, he raised his head ever so slightly, and then turned around and walked away. No embrace. No speech. No sides. He left them behind. The match was over, the empire was gone, and Roman Reigns, the man who once ruled them all, had come only to witness the ruin. As the camera zoomed out, one final image lingered: Solo Sikoa, unconscious, Jacob Fatu, breathless, Zilla watching the ramp, and Roman Reigns. Fading into the darkness, the bloodline wasn't just broken. It was abandoned, and SummerSlam 2025 would forever be remembered as the night the last thread was cut. The war is over, but the scars will never heal. SummerSlam was over, but the silence that followed was deafening. No tweets from Roman Reigns. No press conference from Triple H. No backstage interviews from Jacob Fatu. Not even a passing statement from Paul Heyman. Just silence. As if the entire company was holding its breath, trying to decide what could possibly be said after a night that left the bloodline in ashes. In the days that followed, WWE aired only one video clip from the steel cage match. It wasn't the final pin. It wasn't the aftermath. It was that single haunting moment: Roman Reigns, staring into the ring from the ramp, and walking away. That was the message. Roman didn't return to claim the throne. He returned to declare the war finished and to make one thing crystal clear: whatever the bloodline had become, it was no longer his. Backstage sources confirmed what many had feared: Roman Reigns had not spoken to Solo, Jacob, or even Paul Heyman since the night of the arrest. His appearance at SummerSlam was not scripted, not approved, and not communicated to talent beforehand. He simply showed up, watched, and vanished. No one even saw him leave the building. When Paul Heyman was asked by reporters on Raw for comment, he responded with something far more chilling than a statement. He removed his glasses, looked dead into the camera, and said, "There is no bloodline anymore." Then he walked away. No emotion, no loyalty, just truth. Inside WWE's executive circle, the fallout was immediate. Triple H held an emergency booking meeting the morning after SummerSlam. Creative had already scrapped all post-SummerSlam plans involving Solo Sikoa, who is now officially suspended without pay, pending further legal investigation. Jacob Fatu, meanwhile, has reportedly refused multiple interview requests, including from Michael Cole and Byron Saxton. His only public comment came in the form of a brief, handwritten Instagram post: "I did what I had to do. The rest ain't mine to fix." It garnered over 2.5 million likes in under 24 hours, but the bigger question remained: where does WWE go from here? Because what happened at SummerSlam wasn't just a climax. It was a collapse. The bloodline, WWE's most dominant, profitable, and personal storyline in a generation, was now without a leader, without a purpose, and without direction. And yet, something else was happening behind the scenes. On Tuesday morning, WWE filed a new internal trademark with the following phrase: "Heirs of the Island." Fans speculated immediately: a new faction, a rebirth, or something more sinister. Some insiders believe WWE is preparing to split the legacy into two opposing forces, one led by Jacob Fatu, built on honor and blood, and another still waiting in the shadows, waiting to rise from Solo Sikoa's fall. But those plans remain unconfirmed. What is confirmed is this: Solo Sikoa has officially vacated the United States Championship. Jacob Fatu has been offered, and declined, a shot at the vacant title. Zilla Fatu is now in possession of the ring gear Solo wore into the cage, not as a trophy, but as a warning. And Roman Reigns, he hasn't been seen since SummerSlam. His contract status remains active, but internally, WWE officials refer to him by a new term: detached. No statements. No photos, just one lingering image. A man in black, standing above the ruins of his family, walking into the dark. The tribal chief didn't lose at SummerSlam. He let it all burn, and now, the kingdom lies in silence. But as one anonymous WWE producer reportedly said while watching the cage match backstage, "When Roman's quiet, that's when you should be most afraid. Because silence, in the world of the bloodline, is never peace. It's the calm before a new storm." It started with a flicker, not a promo. Not a match, just a single, unannounced glitch during the final 30 seconds of WWE SmackDown. The broadcast was wrapping up. Cody Rhodes had just finished a dark segment with LA Knight. When the screen flickered for exactly 1.5 seconds, black static. A flash of red. A shot of sand blowing in the wind. And then, nothing. No commentary. No follow-up, but those who caught it? They knew something, or someone, was coming. By midnight, WWE social channels were flooded with frame-by-frame breakdowns of the flicker. Reddit sleuths enhanced the grainy footage. Twitter trended #TribalSig.